Today I talk about how to build a sustainable value chain in natural farming. So I'll be using the term natural organic little bit interchangeably because the principles, practices are same or similar. And second, instead of talking about some theory, our own experience in building the value chain, I'm sure for people interested, it might serve as a template with some modifications for them to build something similar. So I think when you talk about sustainability, we are talking about for the farmers, economic sustainability, social sustainability, and also ecological sustainability. So all these things which you see on the slide are what makes this whole thing sustainable. And we also have the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals which have been enunciated, and then almost all countries are trying to do something about it so that the quality and of the life, quality of environment, everything improves. So what I'll do is I'll talk in two parts. One, I'll talk about SDGs and then how organic or natural farming can impact positively. And second, our experience in building this sustainable value chain. So how does natural farming contribute to this SDGs? One is, I think, the most important thing is soil. So soil is the most important thing. It is the basis of all life. Unfortunately, I think we have lost sight of that. Today, Indian soils, the carbon content is very poor. It's about 0.2% in rain-fed areas and perhaps 0.3 or 0.4% in irrigated areas. And this has led to increased use of fertilizers because the soil is not supportive. The soil microbiome has got weakened because there's a soil microbiome which actually fetches nutrients and then gives to the plant. And because it's not very good, obviously farmers have to use more and more fertilizers every year to get the same yield, which increases costs. And the second thing is the soil structure has got affected. The soil is not able to retain water, and because of that more and more water is required to produce the same yields, and water is a huge short supply. Then with organic, obviously the emphasis is on building soil fertility through natural means, which is composting, green manuring, green leaf manuring, crop rotation. So that really helps in building the soil fertility. Second is soil carbon content increases. We have been in the organic field since 2004, and many of our farmers have been practicing organic for more than 10 years. So this year we started a program called Amrit Mitti, where we have chosen about 3,500 farmers. The idea is to double the soil carbon content. As part of that, we have done some baseline studies of soils of these 3,500 farmers spread over 12 states. And what we have found is our farmers, the soil carbon content in rain-fed areas is about 0.3 to 0.5%. And in irrigated areas, it's about 0.5 to 1%. So which is almost like 50% to 100% more than conventional fields. And our idea is how do we double this further? So that itself is a practical example, live example of how soil carbon content increases by organic and natural practices. And obviously this leads to better soil structure. And what we have found in our empirical evidence or doing organic farming or natural farming over last 18 years is that organic farms perform much better under stress conditions, whether it is drought or whether it is too much rain. They're able to withstand and then give much better yield under those conditions. So that's why soil becomes very important. Then the other important issue is water. Obviously, water is always in short supply. Only about 2.5% of the water available on earth is fresh water. Balance is all saline water which can't be used for cultivation purposes. And what the fresh water which is available for use is just 1%. So with 1% you're trying to feed 8 billion population across the world. And today, 1 in 4 people in the world face chronic water shortage. So obviously, it's a very precious commodity which is in gross short supply. And we are also, through use of chemicals, pesticides, we are also polluting this water. Whether it's with pesticides, nitrogen runoff because of excess, lot of application of nitrogenous fertilizers, and then of course phosphorus. And this water ultimately also joins at some point into the oceans, and that has also created dead marine zones where no aquatic creature can survive. So with organic and natural, one is, as I said, we talked about soils becoming better. That's why the water holding capacity is better. And what we find is in conventional fields, if you have to irrigate once in 7 days, in organic you can do with once in 5 days. So we are talking about almost 30-35% better water use efficiency. And in organic also what happens is we are using varieties more suited to the local conditions. And the philosophy of organic is also about optimal production, not maximal production. Because when you talk about maximal production, you are not taking any other consideration other than the yield. When we talk about optimal, we are saying how do we get the best without unduly disturbing nature. And obviously because there is no usage of fertilizer, pesticide, the contamination of groundwater is not there. And climate change is a big issue which is facing all of us today. We are already seeing excess floods, droughts, long spells, uneven distribution of rainfall. In fact, India last 3 years has been terrible. There have been too much rains in a very short period and then long gaps in between, leading to suboptimal production. So, and this is definitely going to disrupt the production system. And in fact, I think every region, every area in the country, they have evolved their own sowing windows based on experience. So in Telugu states, we call Kartulu, which is like a 13-14 day kind of cycle. And I think every area within the state is optimized. The farmers know, saying that if you sow during this Karti, you will get the best yield or less pest and disease. But these things are not making sense anymore because the climate has considerably changed. Obviously, rediscovering this is going to take a long time, and that will happen only when the temperature and the other environmental factors stabilize, which is not going to happen, at least not in our lifetimes. That's why I think organic natural farming makes sense, because one, we are creating less greenhouse gases. One is, I think, sequestering carbon. I think we talked about, globally the COP27 is going on now. And then we talk about reducing greenhouse gases, but reduction itself is not enough. This, whatever is released also needs to be sequestered, and the largest sink which we can think of is the earth. And with organic practices, you can sequester a lot of carbon. In fact, with our own small effort of working on about 200,000 acres with 40,000 farmers, we believe if we are able to just double the soil carbon content, we can sequester a few million tons. So similarly, if a whole nation in a large scale adopts, it can be a huge contributor to net zero goal, which we have kept for ourselves by 2017. And of course, the other contribution is synthetic fertilizers, pesticide, their transportation also crosses greenhouse gases. And then in organic natural, since we don't use, that also gets reduced. So organic is a very adaptive system. This slide shows you that typically most of the practices used in organic and natural farming, they help in adapting to this climate change process. They also mitigate some of the effects of climate change, and hence given this challenge of climate change, which is beyond our control, this is a unique system, a great system to manage this entire thing. Then similarly, biodiversity is again a big issue. Today, land degradation, about 25% of land is degraded, and it affects 3.2 billion people. And then this is progressing continuously, affecting more and more people as we go along. And today there is a 60% loss of flying insects due to use of pesticide. And most crops are cross-pollinated, and this affects pollination. And today it's estimated that we are losing about $150 billion worth of produce because of reduction in flying insect population. And our genetic base also has become narrow. At the beginning of the 20th century, we used to cultivate a few lakh varieties of rice. Today, perhaps in India, we cultivate a few hundred varieties of rice. And this can be perhaps traced to a few dozen genetic lines. So obviously, if there is a major pest disease outbreak, then the whole thing can be at risk. So in organic and natural, we find that in fact research shows that 30 to 40% we have more biodiversity. Second is because of the enhanced soil carbon content, it supports a much richer and diverse soil microbial population. And obviously no use of pesticide means we are increasing the insect diversity and also population of the flying insects, which helps in pollination. And in organic, we also tend to use locally adaptable varieties. To that extent, the diversity increases. And then obviously a lot of waste gets recycled properly. So there's a proper ecological recycling which is happening. And a lot of organic farming, in fact, worldwide, I think, particularly in the developing countries, 80-90% of farmers are smallholder farmers, and their livelihood is at stake today. But with industrial agriculture, the whole emphasis on production, there's not so much emphasis on livelihoods. Because while food production is important, the livelihood of people who are cultivating and growing this food is equally important. So in organic and natural, with our focus on better soils and also diversified cropping pattern, low external inputs, and then farmers in many cases able to get better prices, this obviously reduces their financial and production risk. It leads to better incomes and a kind of a fair trade, and obviously better working conditions because they are not exposed to a lot of these harmful pesticides and all, which leads to a lot of cancer and other issues in farming families. Health and nutrition, again, chemical and pesticide residues in food are a huge issue. This is one of the leading causes of cancer among people. Then particularly in livestock, antibiotics and hormones are again a major issue, leading to a lot of other side effects on health. So to that extent, organic has nil or very negligible amounts of pesticide residues or heavy metals. Then no antibiotics are used, so to that extent risk of antibiotic resistance is not there. And it has been found that the nutritional values are better, particularly in terms of antioxidants, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids, etc. And obviously food has to be fun because we have short lives. 100 years is not a very long time. And then organic definitely tastes better. And good food also leads to good conversations and good relationships. So this is a chart taken from an article written by John Reganold and Jonathan Bachelor. So if you look at conventional and organic, in conventional only on the yield parameter it is favorable, whereas if you look at organic, yield might be slightly lower. I'll also talk about the Indian experience here. The soil quality is better, energy usage is lesser, biodiversity is better, profitability for the farms is better, the total cost is lower, and then it obviously reduces exposure to pesticide to that extent, better health. And as far as yields are concerned, based on our own experience of doing organic farming for the last 18 years, the yield difference in rain-fed areas is negligible, and in irrigated areas, particularly where the input usage is lower, again the yield difference are minimal. So I think this fear of losing productivity and food security need not necessarily be correct. So I think this chart gives you that many of these organic practices help in creating positive impact and some of the SDGs, and some help by reducing the negative impact. So I'll not get into details on this, but I think it's there on the chart. Is there an opportunity for organic natural food? So I'll talk about that in this particular section. So the domestic market, we believe in the near future could be $7 to $10 billion, and it could be much, much bigger as we go along, primarily because of residues, adulteration. In fact, I think various research has shown that almost 55% of products, food products, have pesticide residues in them. And there are varying estimates. One estimate talks about 14% of products being adulterated. Given the organic and the control system, certification system, and the kind of practices which they use to produce food, obviously this danger is less. Second, health concerns are a big issue. A few years back, it was estimated the market for healthy products was about $10 billion, and this is growing at 15 to 20%, and this can become fairly big. And obviously, growth of modern trade, e-commerce helps in marketing these products and then reaching out to consumers in a much better manner. And obviously, the income levels of people is increasing, and the consumption is likely to quadruple. And the let's say the upper middle income, we are talking about the base growing from 2.6 to 23 million. And obviously, there's a huge upliftment happening. And today, I think there's a huge percentage of people who are in middle and then lower middle class, and they keep migrating above in the income levels. And in terms of the international opportunity, the organic market is about $120 billion plus, growing at the rate of 7 to 8%. US and Europe are the biggest markets, followed, and now I think developing countries are slowly picking up. For us, the big opportunity lies in three things. One is specialty packaged food. Second is processed ingredients, and third is raw ingredients. So it could be a $10-12 billion opportunity in the near future. And as we go along, obviously the market increase and the potential for us to export also is likely to increase. And obviously, unless the farmer grows organic or naturally, or there's nothing to market or whatever. So today I think there are four issues which farmers face. One is high cost of cultivation leading to debt trap. Second is soil degradation leading to falling productivity and increased cost. And third is health problems in farming families is a big issue. And fourth is the weak market linkages, because of which farmers, when they produce more, they suffer. So, and organic addresses all of these issues, and because of which we believe in the next 5 to 10 years, this can become a 10 million hectares can be converted fully to organic and natural, and perhaps if the right policies are there, this can become much, much bigger also. So let me talk about our own experience in building this value chain. So as an organization, I think what we are trying to do is we are trying to club sustainability, ethical practices, and commercial success to create lasting transformation. So that is what we are trying to do. So I think the building blocks in this value chain are: one is educating consumers, then increasing farmers' profitability, third is creating a brand, then fourth is creating healthy products, fifth is building the supply chain, which includes distribution and other things, then also addressing the customer trust, then educating them, consumers, and finally, obviously you need to do all this, then you need people and money, and finally the effort in building the ecosystem. So educating farmers, I think the most important thing is obviously we will have to do social mobilization, because farmers have to be educated, because I think the first question which farmers have is, oh, is this really possible? How can you grow without fertilizer and pesticide? So that is the first biggest issue we have when talking to farmers. So obviously we need to convince them, and the best way is to be honest, because obviously organic cannot make a farmer suddenly overnight rich. It can make his life better. We discussed some of those things in our earlier during the earlier slides. So what we do is we tell them that this is good for you. It is going to reduce your risk, definitely improve your income levels. So for that, I think the route we have taken is basically training and building a strong training and crop advisory services. For every 250-300 people, we have people in the field. So their job is to visit the farmers, train them, and if they have problems, provide solutions. Because I think no farmer would like to use pesticide or fertilizer unnecessarily if we are able to provide them a timely solution. So that's what we do. So today we work with about 40,000 farmers on 2.5 lakh acres in about 12 states, and most of our farmers are small farmers. Ultimately, farmer has got few acres of land, and that is his only source of livelihood. He has to feed his family, he has to educate his children and take care of various social needs. So it's very important we ensure that natural organic farming is profitable. One is obviously by not using fertilizer, pesticide, it definitely reduces some expenses. Of course, some expenses also go up because of manual weeding, etc. But we believe we have found that there's a net decrease in the expenses. Second is we do direct buyback and pay a premium to the farmers. Then third is our focus is on getting good yields. One is advising them about the right agronomic and plant protection practices. And what we have also done is we have identified locally suitable varieties for organic farming conditions. So we don't sell seeds because we believe then we will not be addressing sustainability. So we get foundation seed from the universities or the research institutions, give it to good farmers, they multiply under our supervision and exchange among themselves. Two things happen. One is obviously their yield goes up. Second is the quality goes up, because of which also they get a better price. So what we have found is farmers are attracted to this because one is their financial risk gets reduced because they don't have to borrow money for fertilizer, pesticides. Second is we have also found the production risk gets reduced because the soil is much better and it is also able to withstand adverse conditions in a much better manner. So this is why I think we have been able to retain our retention rate has been 95-96% in the last 18 years. One is if you have to really make sure that the farmer benefits, he should also be able to realize a better price. And if he has to realize a better price, then there should be consumer acceptance. And one of the key elements is in building a brand which consumers can trust. So in our case, we started with this brand called 24 Mantra. When you write the Panchabhutas, it reads as Bhumir, Apo, Analo, Anilo, Nabha, which is earth, water, fire, air and ether. And when you add the Sanskrit words written in English, it comes to 24 letters. So that's why I think we have named the brand as 24 Mantra. And basically because we say all matter is made out of these 5 elements, and we're saying there's nothing but nature inside. So this has been a very important thing in helping us build the brand. And I guess anyone wanting to launch will have to give some thought to this. The other part is developing healthy products. Obviously, with organic, again, you can make junk by polishing it to death or adding all sorts of unnecessary things. So I think our whole focus is to make sure that the products are wholesome and great tasting, because I think in the name of health and wholesomeness, it should not become a punishment. Because as I said, food is to be enjoyed and it should not become a punishment. So I think over a period of time, we invested a lot of things in innovation, not only in developing products, but in storage methods, because as you know, most of the crops are harvested once a year and then you store it. And if you go to any conventional warehouse, every 15-20 days, it is fumigated with chemicals to prevent insects away, whereas we don't do anything. So we have developed our own methods to ensure that we are able to store this almost for a year without any problems. Even the treatment methods, non-chemical treatment methods we have evolved. So primarily we used a modified atmospheric method to treat all our grains and produce. Then we have evolved processing methods which involve minimal processing so that the nutritional value is retained. And finally, the packaging itself plays a role in doing the shelf life. Initially, when we started off, our products would go bad within a week, 10 days, 15 days. Today I think through various measures, both post-harvest, then second is storage, and then treatment, etc. Naturally, we have, and then also the packaging, construction, etc. We have been able to give even much better, more shelf life than conventional products. This becomes particularly important because your consumer need not be necessarily in your vicinity. It could be far off. You might be in Andhra and trying to sell in Karnataka or somewhere else. Then packaging becomes very important. And the other important part is educating consumers. As I said, unless consumers are convinced and know about this and then understand this, then obviously there won't be a market. If there is no market, then the farmers will also not be enthused to produce. What we do is we do a lot of activities. One is in store itself. Within the store, our associates are trained to talk to consumers, educate them about organic or natural, and then convince them to buy and try the products. And then that's how we have built the customer franchisee over a period of time, doing a lot of neighborhood events. Then obviously today digital medium is a very important medium. Then finally public relations, where I think people write in media or talk in media about various let's say advantages of organic or the way it is done, how it is beneficial to both people and the planet. So I think this becomes very important wherever, because the market is still nascent. It requires a lot of effort by all the participants in this organic natural sector. We need to do a lot of this. Then I think other important thing is consumer trust. Just because I think we can get a better price, people should not take advantage of customers. This is a very important element, because if you lose the customer's trust, then obviously, and it affects the market development. So what we have done is, one is we have built something called a farm to fork traceability, because we source everything directly from our own farmers. We have put a QR code on the pack. Customers can scan the QR code. Then they will be taken to a traceability website. They can key in the batch number, and then they can see which farmers have grown the contents of the pack, where they have grown, when they have grown, where it is processed. So that entire journey is mapped and the consumer can see. They can also see all the test reports. And as a company, what we did is right from day one, though 2004, no one knew about organic and it was hardly prevalent in India. From day one, we said we have to adhere to the highest standards. So from day one, though we were not exporting, we were certified for US, European and Indian organic standards. And we continue to maintain that. That is one big advantage, because today whether we sell in India, US or Europe, the product is the same. Only the label on the packing could change because of local regulatory requirements. And all our units are certified for FSSC 22000, some of the highest safety standards, because particularly if you're selling to your neighbor, these things are not an issue. But a lot of times you obviously have to sell to much beyond your own local markets, and that's where this food safety becomes very important. So that is something I think we have built into our whole thing. And the other important thing is organic integrity, because I think today, after so many years, still the important question is, how do I trust that this is what I'm buying is genuinely organic or natural? So what we have done is we have created a 5-level check system. One is we form farmers into informal groups, and if anyone violates in the group, we expect the group to inform us, otherwise the whole group gets penalized, and that is kind of social pressure which works fairly well. Then all our farms are geotagged, and as I said earlier, for every 250-300 farmers, we have one of our persons stationed at the site, and they visit the farmers regularly and then monitor what's happening and also guide and train the farmers. Then we do internal, cross-internal inspections. Like, I'm working with you as a farmer, I might become friendly, ignore some things. So let's say someone working in Vidarbha will go to Marathwada to inspect each and every farm every season. So typically we end up doing about close to 80,000 inspections every year to make sure that the farmer is doing organic, and second, there is no contamination from neighboring fields. And fourth is obviously the certification agency, they inspect every season. And finally, before we procure, we check for pesticide residues and other quality parameters. And only once this gets cleared, then the procurement happens. So this is how I think we are trying to build consumer trust, which becomes very, very important. And obviously, building a distribution system is very important. Today, I think you have three channels. One is your modern trade, which is all the supermarkets. Second is the general trade, which is the kirana stores and all. And third, of course, e-commerce, though it is still only about low single digits, but it is expanding rapidly, and particularly in urban areas, it's fairly widely prevalent. So obviously, we'll have to work with all of these channel partners in educating them about organic, natural, then convincing them to carry these products and offer it to consumers, their consumers. Similarly, I think we export the 24 Mantra brand to about 40 countries in North America, Europe, Middle East. Again, one is we'll have to conform to the importing countries' requirements. Second is we have to ensure that our packaging and then our infrastructure. So in US we have our own warehouses, etc. In other places we have distributors who have their warehouses, and then they take care of that. Within India itself, we have distribution centers in all the major cities. From there, it is again distributed to the retailers on a weekly basis. Whereas this international shipments happen every month based on the indents we get. And obviously, it's very important to kind of reduce our own carbon footprint. So what we do is the primary processing is closer to production centers, because based on the commodity, the recovery could be about 90% or 50% or 60%. So that's why I think, so that we unnecessarily avoid this thing. And then what we are also trying to do is build a very decentralized production and distribution infrastructure so that the carbon miles are kind of reduced. And with our Amrit Mitti program, where we want to double the soil carbon content with our farmers, hopefully we will become a net zero carbon footprint company in the years to come. And hopefully that will also help our farmers in getting carbon credits and some additional income. And obviously, if you have to build this, people and money are very important. And this organic and natural farming requires a different mindset. It requires a lot of commitment, because it's not easy as producing and selling the normal stuff, the conventional stuff. So that's why I think people have to be driven by their mission. They have to have a strong value system. And that's what we have built in our organization over a period of time. And obviously you require money, but there's never enough money for blowing up. So obviously we have to use money very carefully, very frugally. And then as part of the business, we have to make cash flow sustainable. Because I think for us, what is important is the triple bottom line impact. One is the impact we make on our farmers, consumers in terms of better incomes, better health, better nutrition. Second is the impact we make on the environment. Then third is obviously as a business, we have to generate profits. Now this business could be a FPO, it could be a company, whatever. But ultimately every business will have to generate profits. And then these profits could be reinvested back into the business to create more and more impact. And obviously we started in 2004 when there was not much known about organic. So obviously we have to play a very important and a leading role in educating or sensitizing, I would say, policymakers, scientists, and we have worked very closely with central state governments, both directly as an organization and through various industry associations. Today there's a great acceptance from let's say in 2000, when we started off in early 2000, there was a lot of denial, and then there was resistance from the policymakers and scientists saying that organic means loss of food security. To today, where the Prime Minister is advocating natural farming in a big way, and the government has taken up program in big way, because in these intervening years, the scientific institutions, ICR, they have done a lot of research and come to the conclusion that organic doesn't mean lower production or loss of food security. It could be as productive and in many situations even better than conventional farming. Apart from the policymakers and scientists, we have to educate the retailers. Then third is we have to also educate influencers like nutritionists, food bloggers, doctors, so that they are able to talk to their own clients or patients about the benefits of organic and why they should adopt in building a healthy nation. So in summary, organic natural food is about sustainability, and to build a true organic natural food or farming business, we need to optimize the system profitability and make sure that we create value for all the stakeholders, whether it's farmers, consumers, the society in general, and also the environment. We need to make sure that markets work for farmers, and that is the most sustainable way of promoting organic and natural farming. Thank you very much.